Welcome to the Quill Kettle podcast, where intuition meets industry. Join me as I sit down with authors, editors, designers, and other publishing professionals for tarot-guided interviews that blend business, psychology, and magic to dive deep into what it really takes to build a sustainable and inspiring creative career. Each episode is inspired by a 5-card tarot spread that I've created and is interpreted through an archetypal lens rather than used for divination. The intention held while pulling cards for each interview is you, the listener. I hope each episode brings you closer to finding your own aligned path to a creative career that you deserve. Today I'm sitting down with Theresa Paolo, a contemporary romance author who also happens to be my editor, to explore the intricacies of writing small-town romances and the challenges of balancing creative life with personal life. Discover how Theresa navigates the world of self-publishing, the importance of authentic character development, and the joys of creating interconnected storylines that resonate with readers. Whether you're an aspiring writer, a seasoned author, or simply a curious reader, this conversation offers valuable insights into the art of storytelling and the power of voice in literature. At the core of our conversation is the Empress, and how creativity must be nurtured in order to flourish. In the unconscious wing sits the Queen of Pentacles reversed, which highlights the depletion of resources when we overgive to our creative pursuits. I love the bridge card in this unconscious realm, coming up as the Devil, because this is the card of unbinding yourself from something that is holding you back. And to be honest, in this context, it does feel very self-inflicted. Hustle culture is rampant in publishing spaces, and in order to move from depletion to nurturing our creative businesses, we have to unchain ourselves from advice, processes, and frameworks that drain us. Moving over to the conscious wing of this spread, we have the 5 of Swords reversed, which has us wanting to step away from toxic narratives, wanting sustainability over productivity when it comes to our publishing career. And we get there through our conscious bridge, the Queen of Swords reversed. There's a lot going on that has us stuck in our rigid opinions and over-intellectualizing our art, when it's really asking us to begin feeling it in our bodies and allowing it to flow. This spread moves through scarcity towards a reclamation by returning to the source of your creativity, which lives within your body and mind. How about we start with talking about what you are currently working on?
Well, I just finished a book that I sent to my editor, Cassie. Um, here we go with the
That's
which is
fine.
book 6 in my Vine Valley series. And once that went to her, I immediately jumped into my next book, which is a new Christmas series, which I'm super, super excited about. Basically, because I always thought that I would write Christmas books. Like, I love
Mm,
Hallmark Christmas movies. I'm one of those people. But I write steamy romance. So I was like, I don't know. But I decided that I'm just going for it. I'm just going to make it steamy. I'm going to make it my own.
yeah.
But I'm bringing, I'm also known for, family sagas, so I'm bringing a lot of family drama into it, and I write small town romance, but I wanted, to do something a little different, so instead of it being an actual small town, the grandfather is, very wealthy, and he has an estate, so the small town is actually the people that work for him because they're,
Oh, so it's like
yeah,
a Downton Abbey kind of deal.
kind of, yeah, but in,
Yeah.
present day, so I
Yeah.
was like, I kinda wanna do that because to me, secondary characters make a story, and I love when, that's why I love small town because you can bring that in, but I felt like it was, kinda like the same thing over and over, so I just wanted to, spice it up a little bit and do something different. So I'm super excited about that, and I'm also doing an edit for a client and planning, the next, book in my Red Maple Falls series, which is my most popular series.
Right.
I
That's
kind of have a
kind of
lot
your
going on.
cornerstone.
Yeah, that's, the one that, all my readers are like, "Well, when are we getting another one of those?"
Yeah, you're eventually going to run out of people in this small town.
Right? And when I first started the series, I'm pretty sure that I said there was, 500 people in the town, so I'm I
Oh,
feel like I'm going through them pretty quickly, but
yeah.
I started writing it in 2017, so it's almost been 10 years. I just put out book 13. Well, technically it's a novella, but I'm saying it's book 13 because it's pretty long
Hmm.
for a novella, and, but she created a new family, so I'm like, "Okay, let's go with it."
There we go. And what started you on the small town route? Because you live in New York City, do you not?
I don't live in New York City, I live,
Oh,
on
okay.
Long Island. So I'm actually
Oh,
like an
okay.
hour and a half away from New York City, and where I live is you drive into my neighborhood and there's a horse farm on the corner. So,
Okay.
technically, my town is very small town, but at the same time, like, Long Island is made up of so many towns, and they're so close together that it
Right.
doesn't feel small town because I'll go 4 towns over to go shopping, like, it's because everything is just so close together.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not small town, but I'm definitely more small town than New York City. But
Yeah.
and, like, if you go into, like, the main street where I live, there's, like, an old vintage gas station, like, so I'm definitely more
Okay.
yeah, more rural than, like, the city, but, I just started reading small town romance, like, I started reading, Susan Mallory's Fool's Gold series, Tony Blake, Destiny series, Kristen Higgins had a bunch of small town series, so I was reading them, and I just fell in love with it. Barbara Freethie was another one, and I was like, "I wanna write this." And at the time, I
Mhm.
was writing young adult, so I was like, "I don't know if I'm capable of writing adult books," even though I was, like, in my, like, early 30s, 20s. I didn't think that I was old enough to do it. Like, I was still in that mindset, I felt like, and then I just decided to do it, and I did, and it
Yeah.
worked out well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I started out in YA too. That seems to kind of be that, 'cause you self-publish as well, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, and that sort of say, like, I don't know if that's just kind of the because 'cause you're sort of part of the cohort that I was part of when I first
Yes.
started publishing, and we all kind of published YA to begin with, and
We
these
all
coming of
started
age
with YA.
stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then eventually we all wound up going in different directions. Some people, like, are still somewhat they're still writing YA.
Yep.
I am so out of touch with the younger generation now that I don't even think I could even attempt to write a young adult book.
Yeah.
But, so I feel like it was a natural progression for me at least.
Yeah.
But
Well, and we were
I'm
all,
also
like, younger too. I think I was 27 when like, 25 when I started writing,
yeah,
and
I was in my
so
early 20s. I wanna say, like, 2007, 2008 is when I really started
Mhm.
writing and taking it like, I always wrote, I always loved to write, but that's when I was like,
Yeah,
"I'm gonna get
same.
an agent, and I'm gonna do this and all," get published and all of that. So that
Mhm.
was, what, 18 years ago?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always a
So
bit of a heart clencher. You're
yeah.
like, "Oh, geez, that was a long time ago."
I was like, "What?"
1990 wasn't just 10 years ago? I don't,
Right?
like
I still think it was yeah,
yeah.
it was not done
Yeah,
here.
no, yeah, and I wanna keep on the your books here for a little while too, and talk a little bit more about the secondary characters. I find that, like, especially in small town, but even in some other sort of, like, sports, let's say sports romance is big with the secondary characters and stuff like that. I absolutely love it when I read a book and I'm, like, almost more in love with the side character than I am
Yes.
with, like, main characters, and I'm like, "Okay, you guys go, wait, what's that guy doing? Like, what's that girl doing? I wanna know about her life," kind of thing, and so, how do you, build these characters, specifically the secondary characters, so that they don't
So
take over, but that they're still,
that's
very
the biggest
exciting?
problem is if they take over, and you don't want them to take over, but you also want them to be intriguing enough that people want their story, and I
Mhm,
always say that secondary characters like, when you pick up a book and you're, like, in book 2 or book 3, you want it to be like you're revisiting friends. So, like, just
mhm,
like friends, they're not, like, the main part of your life, but they are, a part of your outside world, like, say, outside of your house or whatever, so, like, I just like to keep it like that, like, keep the focus on the main characters, but bring those secondary characters in as much as you can without them overshadowing, and
mhm.
I have had many times where my editor sends it back and is like, "This isn't about them, cut down on
Right.
the secondary characters." Like, but I also, flesh them out just like I do my main characters, and I think a lot of people don't do that. They'll focus so
Mhm,
much on the main characters that you make them so real that you forget the secondary characters, and then that can kinda, like, take away from the story and, like, having the reader feel so immersed in the story. But if you
mhm,
really, like, go through and you get all of the characters fleshed out before you even start writing, it's going to help like, grow the story, grow the characters, and then get that connection from the reader to the overall
mhm.
story. And I'm always
Right.
thinking of, like 'cause in the beginning, I wasn't so sure of, like, who was gonna, like, have their own stories and stuff. Like, I had, like, the main 6 in the family, and then I'm like, you have to be careful of every person you name because they might come back when you don't realize it, and you might just give them a name that you don't even like. You're just like, "Ah, I just need a name, just throw
Mhm.
something out there." And next thing you know, you're like, "Oh, they'd make a great story," and now you're stuck with this name. So, I think about that now. And I'm
Right.
also very aware of, like, all of my series and all of the names and all of the secondary characters. Even if they just have, like, 2 seconds on a page and you don't think they're coming back, they might come back for whatever reason down the road. So I try not to have the names reappear in other books unless they're that character.
Okay.
'Cause I also try to, make all of my series. They all exist in the same world in my head.
Right.
So, like,
Okay.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
like, in Red Maple Falls, book 3, Mason, he's a brewery owner, he has Five Leaf Brewery. So, like, in Morgan's Bay, which is another series of mine, at the bar, they're drinking Five Leaf Brewery beer.
I love those Easter eggs. You can
Yeah.
I can see I can see the Tay behind you, so I know yeah,
He has
we love our Easter eggs.
Yes. I have just got into it, like, in the past, like, few years, I think, because TikTok, all of a sudden, I started seeing all the Easter eggs, and she made me, like, I see how aggressive fans get with it and how it's
Mhm.
created super fans, and I love that because it's like it's not just about her, it's about giving something to her listeners and giving them
Yeah.
something to grab onto, and, yeah, so I've actually been putting a lot more in my books, and I've been doing a lot more crossovers.
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
so
that gives the you know, it's not so distracting or it's not so important to the story that people who are just entering your world
Mhm.
can like, that they won't understand, right? But it's enough that
Exactly.
your, like, diehard, your ride or die readers have been, like, they get to kinda, like, pick through and be like, "Oh, does that mean
E
something? And does that mean something?" And
exactly, yeah,
you know, it's like seeing somebody famous on the street, right? Where you're like, "Oh, I know them." And
exactly,
they go
yeah.
by.
That's like I'm currently reading a book, for pleasure, and, she writes romantic suspense. It's, Cynthia Eden, and she's really good at that, and I'm reading this book, and I'm like, "Well, this character sounds familiar, and this character sounds" and I realized she brought 2 of her other series into this one series, so now we have 3 series working in this one series, and I'm like, okay, that's, like, a lot, but that's because it's all characters from the difference and I'm like, "I know that name." And it's like, "Yes, because you read his book, like, 2 years ago on a different series." And to me, that's, like, super like, I would love to do that, and I'm starting to do that, but
Mm.
it's a lot of extra work because you really gotta keep track of, like, everything.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question
Timeline.
is
Yeah.
how do you keep track of all of that? Like
I don't. No. Like, I used to have it in my head, and that's just not working, and, I'm actually toying with the idea right now to go back to my Red Maple Falls series, book 1, and start reading through the entire series myself, and as
Mhm,
I'm reading it, I wanna create bonus content because so many people are like, "I want bonus content," or like, "What happened to this character?" Or like, "We didn't get to see their wedding." So, I would love to create all of that, and it's a
mhm.
time issue. But
Yeah,
I really think that it's time for me to go back and revisit because I to be honest with you, I know who's married, I know who's engaged, I cannot remember how many kids some of them had.
yeah,
So, like, because as, like, the characters start growing and they start making like, okay, they had 2. Was she pregnant in, like, the last book? I don't remember. So, like, I need to go back and, like, write it all down. I should probably
yeah,
just ask my readers, they probably know better than I do. But
it's true.
normally normally, I do a bio, for all my characters where it's just like a
Okay.
sheet of paper that I have that have different, like, questions on it. It's like their favorite food, their favorite movie, the most memorable moment of their life, or, like, the worst memory of their life. And it seems, like, ridiculous, but that's how you develop the character too, because all these little
Mhm.
things are, like, who made them who they are at this present moment as I'm creating them. Um,
Yeah.
so I do that, and I was doing that pretty consistently, and then as I got more, like, busy with so many different things going on, I didn't stick to it as much, but then I noticed
Mhm.
that, like, edits were a lot worse because I didn't know my characters as well in the
Right.
first, like, draft. So I'm going back to it, but now instead of using just a picture of them on a Word doc with all that, I'm using PowerPoint and I'm, like, putting
Cool.
everything in there with pictures and, like, so if I have, like, "Oh, their house looks like this," I don't have to remember it 3 years from now. Because when you first start writing a book, you don't think you're also gonna be writing this series for the next for me, 10 years now.
Yeah.
I didn't even know if these books were gonna do good, and I was, like, just planning on rapid releasing, like, 6 of them and being done with them, and now I'm on book
Mhm.
13, it's 10 almost 10 years later, and I'm just like, "Oh, that's a lot of stuff I did not think to write down." And so I
Yeah.
wanna go back and just make my own, like, series bible.
That's cool with the PowerPoint. I've never really thought of doing something like that, like, make your own presentation with
Yeah,
the
that's
houses
me
and the
and,
town and the
yeah, me and Cassie, for those that don't know, Cassie May is also an author. We've written together, young adult books back in the day. Um,
Mhm.
she started doing that when we were writing another series together, and I was like, "This is such a good idea." And so we
Yeah,
just started, like, building on it.
that
And yeah,
is.
and then you have all the visuals too, because 'cause I'm also a visual person, so
Same, that's always the hardest part. I'm still in the being able to keep everything in my head situation.
as someone that
But
did
it's not
that, write
gonna
it down.
yeah, it's not gonna last
Yeah,
for long, especially now that I'm back into, like, fantasy, where there's world building and magic systems, and I'm finding that I'm starting to kind of, like, cross over a little bit. I was like, "Oh, wait, no, that's the sci-fi thing. I gotta go back to the fantasy thing," right?
yes.
And so I definitely have to, but I'm a visual person as well. I'm a d designer by trade, right? So I don't like the just writing in a Word document. For me, it feels very boring, and again,
Yeah,
as, like, ADHD, graphic designer, I need things to be kind of exciting, so that's
visually
I'm gonna
appealing.
steal that, I think.
Yeah, well, the PowerPoint's actually I waste a lot of time on it because, like, I'm also a creative person too, like, I make my own
Mhm.
graphics, like, I just started making my own covers, I'm not that great at it, but here I am.
Your
So
covers are awesome.
thank you. Well, they're, like some of them are like, I don't know, thanks. I didn't make all of them, so, like, I
Just
just
take
started
the
making
compliment,
I'm
Teresa, just
taking
take
it.
the
I know I can't
compliment.
take a compliment, it's terrible. Um, but no, I just started making my own covers again, and I'm, like, happy with them, but I'm still really bad with, like, the titling, I'm not good at that, but I'm working on it. Cassie's good
Yeah,
at that, so she does it for me and, like, Photoshop, and then I just
right.
transfer it, so that's been
Yeah.
working. But so the PowerPoint, having the visuals, instead of also getting, like, like, a Word doc, and you're sitting there scanning, just trying to find, like, what you're looking for, I'd rather just be like, "Oh, I know my character looks like this person, and I took the picture of this actress, and I can just scan, and I can find, like, whoever it was and be like, oh, there she
Mhm.
is.'" Like, Dakota Johnson's the character I'm working with right now, who I
Right.
imagine. So I'll be, like, going through the PowerPoint, and I'd see her face, and I'm like, "Okay, this is where I
Yeah,
left off with this stuff," instead of just scrolling or, like, control F and trying to find it. Because I know other people
yeah.
use, like, Excel sheets, and I thought about that, but I'm like, I hate Excel sheets. I worked with Excel sheets at, like, my corporate job years ago, and I just hate them
Oh.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, they feel very sterile to me. Like,
Yes.
they really work for people who they work for, right? Like,
Yeah,
folks who
exactly.
like categorizing and like that kind of, but I am not kind of like a linear organization person. I'm more of a
Same.
mind map person, like all the lines and the things and the webs of different
Mhm.
things, and that works better for me. So yeah, like I just panic. I tried to do like a scene list for my fantasy book because there's two different timelines and I'm like running in different four different countries and like
Wow,
these
that's a
kingdoms
lot.
and stuff like that. So I tried, I researched it and it was like, "Here's this spreadsheet and you can just put all your information in there," and I tried so hard and I just like, I panic when I even think about looking at the document. So if you're not gonna use it, there's no point in making it, right?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, it's nice to have in the future, but, like, especially, like, if it's a series that's like 3 years, 4 years down the road that you wind up still writing, it's good to have that as a reference point. Like, I actually started off in notebooks. I was such a big notebook person, but then they started piling up and I'm like, "I have no more room for notebooks," like, and I don't wanna
Yeah.
throw them out because, I don't know, to me, they're like diaries, even though they're not diaries, it's just, like, all of my, like, ideas and thoughts and characters and stuff that I developed back then,
Mhm.
so I feel like I can't throw them out, so I just have, like, stacks everywhere. But I started with my Red Maple Falls series, like, instead of doing a Word doc, I started with the character bios in the notebook. I created the setting, they all have birthdays, they all have, like, everything listed out that you can imagine. So I have gone back to those a few times
Hmm.
and hope that that's actually what I wrote when I was writing the actual book, but it does come in handy to look back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. It's the changes I find that are the hardest to keep track of, like, working through you edited my Stryker Brothers,
Yes, well,
series,
those are
and
great.
thank you. And but keeping track of, like, how much time has passed
The
for,
time is
like,
the big
how
issue.
old yeah, because it's like and then
Yes.
I was a absolute ding dong when I started writing this series, and I decided that each story kind of overlapped a little bit, right?
Huh?
Like, you know, the first one is into the fall, and then the third one actually starts in the first one with the fling. You see the, like, after effects of the fling that they have, that's the third book, and then there's all and I there was an absolute nightmare to keep track of, like, when I had to go in and change, like, half of the second book because there was a timeline mishap where it was
Yes.
one weekend I was, like, 1 weekend late or something like that, and it changed, like, the whole so I had to go through and change the setting descriptions because it was fall instead of summer and,
Summer,
like,
yeah.
all of these things, and I was like, "Never again. Not doing
It's
that
so
again."
well, and that's the problem too in my Red Maple Falls series because I started writing it almost 10 years ago, but 10 years has not passed within the framework of like, the overall story.
Oh,
So,
right.
it's and I'm sitting here going, "Okay, well, I haven't added a book to that series." Well, I just, added one, but it's a
Mhm.
novella, so she wasn't, like, part of, like, the main cast, so I'm like, "How much time has actually passed in total?" Because that's when I come in with the problem they're having kids, like, with the older like, characters that, like, all have their stories and stuff, you don't really need to know their ages, but kids
Mhm.
change so drastically from, like,
Yeah.
young to, like, teenager. So I'm like, "I really need to know how old these kids are," because that's my readers will pick up on that and be like, "Well, weren't they just, like, 2? Why are they, like, 8 now? Or why are they still 2? It's been, like, 3 years." And I'll be like, but it
Yeah.
hasn't." So
Yeah.
that's the main reason why I wanna go back and start reading through the
Mhm.
series to get the timelines down. Though
Yeah, for sure.
I will say the thing that I've been doing that has been working, I will finish one book and say it's the spring. The next book, I go right into the summer. Then the next
Okay.
book will be the fall. So, like, I follow a season pattern just to keep things straight and not to have, like so it seems like it's linear, like, it's
Yeah.
going in time. And there's not big gaps in between. So if I start reading the series, I don't even need to be like, I started writing this in, 2022. It's just, okay, I started writing this and it was the summer of whatever year this was. And then I can just
Right.
go from there. So it really technically could be any year.
Oh, okay. That's clever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing. So it's the easiest thing to do. When I release them, do the seasons line up, which I would absolutely love? Never,
Mm,
never.
no,
Nope, never
that's
happens.
hard. That's
It's so
really
hard.
hard.
So killing me. That's really hard, and I give a lot of credit. I feel like authors that can do that are writing books years in it like a year in advance,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm lucky if I have 2 months before I publish.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I keep thinking that I can maybe get ahead of everything, and then it just never happens. I live in awe of the authors who can write, and who have kind of like, especially in self-publishing, in indie publishing, in traditional publishing, everything is like kind of your timeline is rolled out for you, and so you
Yes,
can do those kinds of things. Um but with indie publishing, authors who treat their indie publishing career as if they were traditionally publishing, if that makes any sense,
I get what
just
you mean, yeah.
like, I'm in awe of them, and I bow
And they're
down to
like
them to do it.
they release their book, and they have the audio ready to go, and they have the hardcover ready to go, and they have the pa in my mind, I'm, like, capable of doing that, and then I try to do that, and, like, my last Red Maple Falls book, Decked Out with Ivy, the one before that, Enamored with Ellie, still is not on audio because I'm
Mm,
like, I just haven't had time because I have to contact my narrator and, like, I have to, like,
yeah,
go through all and so it just amazes me that people can write a book, get it edited, get it ready, get it up for publishing, and be doing the audio at the same time to make sure that that goes at the like, I'm convinced they have a lot of people that work for them to make that happen because 'cause I'm, like, a
Yeah.
solo person, so it's a lot, and I don't think
Yeah.
I don't even and I sometimes I get the paperback up at the exact same time that the ebook publishes, but most of the time it's, like, a month later.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes treat my paperbacks as an afterthought, which is not like I mean,
Yes.
that's not I'm not recommending that, you know?
I'm not recommending that either, but I do the same thing.
Yeah. And then I'm like,
Because
"Oh,
that's
darn, I have to release that in paperback."
and, like, I just started doing my own covers, so, like, prior to that, it was like, well, I have to contact the cover designer, but they can't do the cover until I get them a word count, and the book's not
Right.
fully ready yet because it's still being edited, and I don't format it either, so, like, I have to like, thank God for Cassie because she does, like, so
Yeah.
much for me, so I send it to Cassie, and she formats it for me, but, like, obviously, she's, like, one of my best friends, she's not gonna charge me,
Right.
so I'm not gonna be like, "Cassie, do this now." It's just like, "Here you go, whenever you can get
Right.
to it." Like, that's obviously what I'm gonna do. And she turns it around so quickly usually, but, like, I still don't, like, have a timeline because I'm not structured
Mhm.
with, like, "Okay, well, I'm sending this to you. Can you get it back to me by this date so I can get it up?" Like, I'm not doing that. Like,
Yeah.
maybe if it was, like, a different scenario, I would do that, but I'm not doing that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and most of the time, she's just like, "Do you have a page? Like, do you, like, have this ready?" Because usually I have to, like, go through all the edits and then send it back to her, and she's like, "Did you put the
Mhm.
file in the folder?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot to do that. I'll get to it." She usually reminds me. But then, yeah, so then she'll get that to me, and then I have to message, my cover designer, and I know you were a cover designer for a little while, and I've been
Mhm.
noticing with cover designers, I've had quite a few, they're taking longer and longer to get back to you. So I'm
Mhm.
feeling like they're just inundated, so, like, you also have to go based on their timeline too, so it's like I can't guarantee I'm gonna have the paperback ready to go because I don't know how long it's gonna take for my cover designer to get me that file.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was a cover designer, there was not nearly as many books being published every month as there are now. You know,
It's, like,
like, I
insane.
started out in kind of the golden age of self-publishing, and I did covers for 10 years. Like, 5 years, I would say I was more kind of dedicated to it, but and then the last 5 years was kind of like I wasn't really advertising anymore, I was just sticking with the people that I was working with regularly, um, but yeah, so I can imagine that it's pretty insane these
Yeah.
days, and the thing that a lot of people don't really understand with covers is how much, like, finicky things covers are. They like, you they it's kinda like, "Oh, well, you just make this cover, and it's this beautiful piece of art,
No.
and then you just send it." No, like, I'm moving things by pixels, I've got those little guidelines where I have
Yes.
to, like, calculate things to the, like, 0.0023 decimal, place, and then then you get that, as a cover designer, you get the dreaded email of like, "Oh, actually, can you change the color or the font or the whatever?" And you're like, "No, I don't want to. It's gonna take
Yep.
forever." Um,
And I've
and,
been that person before because it's like you get it and it's like you wanna love it, but there's just
mhm,
something that's, like, just not, like, clicking with you, and you're like, "Well, if they
mhm,
could just change this," and you think it's like it's just a color change, like, how long can it take?
yeah.
But I also am well aware that, like, it's not an easy thing.
Yeah,
But then
that's a
again
word that we're afraid of as designers is just, can you just add, like, or like, the one thing that's really, that can change things a lot that people don't really realize is the back cover copy. When they're like, "Oh, I rewrote the back cover copy. Can you just swap it out?" And you're like, "No, I mean, I can, but it's gonna take," because, or adding one word. They're like, "Can you add this one word into the
it
into the
throws
back
off the
cover?" And I'm like,
margins.
it just throws the whole thing off,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden it's bled into where the barcode is, and then you have to, like, and it's I mean, it's not the end of the world, I'm being very dramatic about it, but it's never just a tiny little. Yeah,
Yeah, especially, like, the back covers too, if there's, like, a picture that's, like, just kinda, like, poking up into, like, the perfect text spot, and now all of a sudden you're adding
yes,
a word, you're throwing the entire, like, structure
yeah,
of that off, and now the words are going into that little picture, so now I have to find the spot to, like, move that picture where it's
yeah.
not gonna interact with the words. Yeah, no, it's not always such an easy thing.
Yeah, yeah, and so once you kinda start formatting and doing these things on your own, it gets more. I mean, it's even more so. I couldn't imagine being like a actual, like, when Cassie she's formatted lots of my books for me too, and, like, making sure that there's no orphans and no widows and no like, that
Yes.
the spacing is correct and that the chapters always start on the right page and, like, that kinda
Mhm.
stuff. I did in InDesign, I ran a Kickstarter for my circus fantasy book, and, when I did the special edition, I did, like, a annotated
Oh,
version,
okay.
so
Yeah.
I the margins were a lot smaller, and so I
Mhm.
had to or they were a lot bigger, sorry, so that you could actually annotate in it if you wanted to, and, that was a nightmare.
I was gonna say,
I
that
think
sounds
it
like a
took me longer
formatting
than
nightmare. It's
yeah,
literally what I just thought.
I think it took me longer to format that book than it actually took me to write it.
Probably. That's like Cassie, on Mondays, like, she'll do formats, me and her talk on the phone, I can take Mondays as, like, my office day, so
Mm,
I'll work for, like,
nice.
8 hours like I'm in an office, and Cassie will call me, and we used to stay on the phone for 8 hours. Now my phone doesn't last that long, my house phone. So we do that, and she formats then, but I, like, said to her, I'm like, "I wanna learn how to format," and I did, like, I could format ebooks.
Mhm.
Paperbacks, I mess up every time. She's tried to show me, and I can't get it right, and I really wanna put my Red Maple Falls books because, my, like, audience for that tends to skew older, so I wanna
Mhm.
get large print for people that,
Oh, yeah.
so that's, like, my goal is to get those in large print, and I'm like, "I'll format it myself." There are there's so much criteria too just for doing because it has to, like, pass, I forget what it is, but it's like some sort of,
Regulation
well
for
yeah, like regulations because it has to be specific to people that actually have, like, eyesight issues and things like that, so it's very
right.
regulated how, like, this has to be this margin, this has to be this size, you can only use certain fonts, like, there's so many, like,
Oh,
different things
interesting.
for it, and I'm like, "Maybe that's not the thing that I jump into to learn how to format." So,
Yeah,
that's
maybe
on the back
not.
burner for now. I'm like, "Let me figure out the paperbacks first, and then we'll, like, move on to that." And
Right.
it's like, I could outsource all this stuff, but I am such, like, a micromanager, I guess, like, I'd rather
Mm.
just do it myself, and I'm like, "Why am I paying someone to do this when I know I can do it myself?" And other people are like, "Well, it's a time thing, you know, you shouldn't have to do everything, have someone else do it," but I'm like, I don't know, I wanna do it
Yeah, and
because
I mean, if it works, I started outsourcing more things because I want to, I do a lot of things other than writing. Like, I design
same.
and I,
Yeah.
do script writing and I do, like, I have a 10-year-old, and so I chase her around and
Well,
take
that's
basically, I'm a
a
taxi
full-time
driver
job.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I
That's
have a
multiple full-time jobs.
yes, yeah, it really is. I mean, I shouldn't take credit for that. My husband is more so the, taxi driver than I am. But I'm the lunch maker and the laundry doer and the
Yep.
all of those things where she's just so busy with her sports and her activities and then, like, getting back into teaching dance classes and doing, like, all of these different things that e eventually I was like, I have to, like, get rid of some things that are causing me stress. And so
Yes.
I'm starting to outsource the, like, tedious things that, that I not that I don't like doing them or that but there are people who can do it better and who can do it faster. And I'm
Yeah.
starting to pinpoint those different
See,
places in my career.
my whole thing is, like, finding someone that works.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I'm just a picky person or, like, I have a standard of how I like to do things or like, I had someone doing, like, Facebook posts for me and things like that, but I realized, like, their voice didn't match my voice, and I am
Mm,
very like, we talked about this with editing, like, I'm all
yeah.
about voice, like and then I'm like, I don't know, I want my readers to, like, feel like they're talking to me because it is me, like,
Mm,
and I don't want, like, someone to pretend it's me, like, I didn't like that, so I, like, put an end to that.
right.
Um and then, like, with TikTok, I was trying to do that, and then I just gave up on it because I'm like, "I can't. Like, this is a lot of work, and
Mhm.
I don't really like being on camera." And
Yeah.
so and then I tried making the videos, and I just didn't feel like it was doing anything. So I'm more about getting rid of things that I've realized are not working for me,
Mhm.
even if they're working for other people. Because 'Cause I'm like, "You
Right.
know what? That's great. I'm happy it's working for you. I have tried it every which way, and maybe if I did outsource it to somebody else," but I'm like, I don't know, I still feel like I'd have to make sure because it's also when you outsource, especially social media, things like that, it's
Mhm.
your name. So
Yeah.
it's like, I wanna make sure that, like, everything is right, and I feel
Yeah.
like I need time to get that, or even, like, formatting books and things like that. Like, I do all of my ebooks. Cassie does some of them for me, but if I'm down to the wire, like, I format my own
Right.
ebooks. I update everything myself. Like, I just uploaded all of my Red Maple Falls covers. I just recovered all of them. But also when
Mhm.
you recover a book, you have to update the interior because now the cover is
Yeah.
different, and then,
The
all of my back matter.
copyright and
Yeah, and exactly, the copyright, and then my back matter was outdated, so I just did all that, and then I have to upload them, but you're uploading them to multiple sites, so it's not just, like, 1 file, 1 upload, it's 1 file, 5 uploads. So
yeah.
and that's, you times that by 14 books because of the 1 novella. I'm like, it was time consuming, and I'm like, I probably could outsource that, but I didn't. My goal
Yeah.
is my mom retired in December,
Mm,
so I'm like, "Mom, maybe I could train you on how to do this." Because then
that's
if I,
funny.
like, and also 'cause, you have to, like, my thing is, like, sometimes I'm like, I'm busy and I'm like, I'll check it when I can, so I'm like, people probably be like, "Well, it's 9 o'clock at night. Why are you messaging me now?"
Mhm.
And it's like, "Well, that's just how I work."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
so
and
then
that's yeah, I have a friend actually who I'm like a morning person and she's a night owl, and I get emails from her at 3 in the morning, and, she doesn't and then I respond at, like, 7 in the morning, and we both know that we're just not, no,
you're just
like,
gonna miss each other
email me
constantly,
at
yeah.
3 in the morning if you need to, but I am not going to answer it until, like until I want to, and yeah, that's, it works for us, I guess, 'cause and we always kind of, like, laugh at each other because she basically is going to sleep at the same time I'm waking up, and we're
Mhm.
just in
That used
totally
to be
different
me.
time zones. Yeah.
Yeah, I was oh, the time zones too kill me, but, that was me. I used to be a night person. I would be up writing, till 5 in the morning, and then I
Oh,
would go to sleep until, like, 9. I don't sleep much,
hmm,
but I can't do that anymore. Like, once it hits 11 o'clock, my brain's like, "We're not working." Like, you can work up
right.
to 11, but, like, once we get past 11, we're done. So there's no more, like,
Yeah,
drinking coffee at midnight and pulling an all-nighter to, like, hit a deadline, which I used to do way too often, like,
yeah,
way too often. My, book, Forbidden Lover in my Willow Cove series, which is book 1, I was in burnout actually, and I didn't want to admit it. I thought, "Well, maybe I'm just burnt out with Red Maple Falls. Let me start a new series," because that's the
yeah,
intelligent thing
that's
to
a
do, but you don't know
that's
when
a
you're in
great
burnout.
idea.
I denied burnout for, like, 5 years, and it, like, almost destroyed any
Right,
creativity I had, but, I was on a deadline, and I was like, "I just need more time, I just need more time." I had a week left, and I'm like, "Okay." I wrote that book in a week, and I literally just, like, slept for maybe 3 or 4 hours a night, and I just worked through the night every single night for 5 days. I got it done, but
yeah.
I don't recommend that, so I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah, no, how do you build that? How do you kind of, like, build that into your life, and what does your creative day kind of look like these days?
I have had such a hard time balancing, like, writing, career, and personal life, because I notice, like, once you start putting more into one thing, it's like the other thing kinda starts falling away, and that's what my problem's been. When I first had quit my job and I started writing full time, I was, like, I convinced myself that I had to treat writing like it was a full-time job, and
Right,
it had to be my focus, and I had to, like, hit certain goals and do certain things, like, and it didn't dawn on me that I was allowing writing to take over my life completely until my best friend since 1st grade was, like, kinda stopped, like, responding to text messages from me and stuff, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And then we had, like, a weird, like, thing going on, and then we wound up meeting up for coffee, and it was because I was ignoring her, like, I wasn't calling her, I wasn't
mm,
texting her, like, I just, like, completely ghosted her and didn't realize it because I was so focused on, like, my writing career. And then we had a
right,
talk and, like, I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry I did that." Um, and it's funny because she's not even, like, a needy friend, like, even now, like, we talk, like, maybe once a month, but it was that bad that I wasn't even talking to her, like, once a month.
oh,
And then, like, 2 years ago, I was like, "Well, I need to start, like, working out more, and I need to start eating better, and I need to start doing this." So then it was like my entire focus was, like, getting my 10,000 steps in, getting a Peloton workout in, like, making sure I'm eating
Right.
3 meals a day and they all, like, hit, like, this many, like, macros and, like, this, like, all this stuff, and I'm just like it used to have so much brain capacity that then I
Yep.
was, like, too exhausted to write, so it's like, I've always had a hard time balancing,
Yeah.
and I'm always rearranging and working and trying to find that balance, and it's still hard. Um, I'm trying something new this year. I told myself I don't have to do all the things because I always felt like I had to do all the things, and then not just in the writing world either, like, in my personal like I said, with, like, getting the 10,000 steps and getting a workout and eating healthy and, like, I got into sourdough bread, like, 2 years ago, and it's, like, making the sourdough and, like,
That's a
that's
cult.
having a child. So it's like, I was trying to do all the things, and then I'm like, "I don't understand why I don't have time to write and why I'm always so exhausted," and it's like, well, when you first quit your job, like, literally all you were doing was writing.
Yeah.
And I didn't have, like, a huge following, so it's not like I was, like, answering emails every single day, and I wasn't, like, posting, on social media every single day. I wasn't doing a newsletter, once a week that takes me 3 and a
Mm,
half hours. So when you step back and you look in and you're like, "Oh, I have a lot more going on than I used to," and that's why writing doesn't feel the same.
right.
So but again, it's, like, trying to find the balance of, like, "Okay, well, now you have all these other things going on, like, how do we balance it again?" So now my
Yeah.
new thing is I'm trying to make Tuesday my writing day. I don't do admin work on Tuesday. I don't answer emails on Tuesday. I don't do social media on Tuesday. I tell like my family, do not call me. I think you just heard my house phone ringing before. It's probably like what mom or my dad. I'm like, don't call me on Tuesdays. So that's what I'm trying to do. And if I can just sit down and get lost in my words, I can write anywhere between like 5 to 10,000 words, depending on my mood. So,
Right.
which is better than like sitting down every single day and trying to force it and getting like 500 words in. So I'm like, if I
Mhm.
just had like my Tuesday of getting words done, I can, even if I don't write at all for the rest of the week, if I can hit like almost 10K, like that's more than I would have if I like forced myself to try to write every single day. So I'm, like,
Right.
looking at that more because I used to write 10K words a day like nothing, and
Yeah.
now it doesn't happen, but it's because I don't give myself the tools to do it. It's like I
Yeah.
pull myself in, like, 30 different directions, and that's the other thing, I'm like, Tuesday, I'm like, "The dishes aren't getting done, that's fine. They
Mhm.
can pile up, I could deal with them on Wednesday, like, you don't need to wash them right this second, like, you
Yeah.
don't have to do laundry today." So it's like, yeah, it's just finding time to write, but also not ignoring all the other aspects of your life too, which is hard.
Yeah. It is. It really is. Like, I'll do that too. I used to have, like, big hyper focus days, and my issue was that I always assumed that my hyper focus was my baseline, which was, like, my big mistake, right? And so I was like, "Okay, well, I can write 10 to 15,000 words in a day, but should I?" That's the
Yes,
other that's the other question,
exactly.
because I would do that and I would write, I think my biggest day was, like, around 15,000 words in the day,
That's
and
impressive.
I could not function for, like, a week afterwards. Like,
Yes.
my brain was goo drooling out my
Mhm,
ears, and that was, but, my problem with that was that I just assumed that because I could produce at such a high output, that I should be able to all the time, that was my baseline, and I've spent the last, like, 10 years of my writing life trying to curb that, like, trying to, like, flatten that line, right? And so instead
mhm,
of going 10,000 words and then nothing for a week and then 10,000 words and then, you know, and it wasn't because it was by design. Like, if I had the ability to tell time, which I don't, time eludes me completely.
mhm,
Um and I could say, "Okay, well, Mondays are my admin days, and Tuesdays are my writing days, and Wednesdays are my, like, whatever is friend days," or, like, I
mm,
also can't do that because I rebel against my own to-do lists, like, I really
yes.
don't like being told what to do, even if it's me telling me what to do, um,
I have the same
and
problem, which is why it's a battle.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, and so once I started focusing on just flattening the line, I can now write a little bit at, like, each day. I'm better. I don't write every day, and I like to say that often because there's a lot of that advice that you have to write every
right,
day if you
it's
wanna
such
be a writer.
BS.
I create every day. Like, every
Yes.
day, I think about my characters, I write down some notes, I'll scroll through Pinterest, I'm working on my stories every day, but I don't write words every day. And, um, yeah, so it's just, like, kind of finding those different ways of balancing things, but on my, like, 10K writing days, all of a sudden I have this pounding headache and I'm like, why is everything so sore? And I look at the
Yes.
clock and I'm like, oh, I haven't drank water like at all in the last 8 hours.
Mhm.
Like, and so finding a way to kind of put those things in there, but I had a similar experience to you where I got like super obsessed with my health. And then all of a sudden, all of my energy went into, like, what was the
Yeah.
kettlebell program I was gonna do and how many macros could I get, and I have to food prep. I gotta prep all my meals for the whole
Yes.
and that's just I think that's an issue, like, a creative brain issue, is that, like, we get on something and we're just like,
We
"That is."
hyperfixate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the baseline thing too, what you said is interesting because I had that same realization, like, a couple months ago that I keep expecting myself to perform, I guess, how I
Yeah.
used to, and I kinda touched on it before, it's like, "But you're not the same person you used to be, like, you've been through burnout and you crawled out of it barely, like, I still
Mhm.
feel like I teeter the line." So I'm not gonna be able to produce or do the things that I was doing prior to that because I'm not the same person, and I'm
Mhm.
also hyper aware of burnout and the effects it has on you, so I'm so scared of falling back into that that I think that my brain, like, purposely shuts me down on things and, like, tells me, like, "Nope, we're not doing that," because it's so afraid of, like, getting to that point again,
Right.
and yeah, so it's rough, but, like, I'm an I've always been, like, an overachiever, so, like, that part of my brain is like, "But we used to write, like, 10,000 words a day every day, or we used to at
Yeah.
least do 5 or 6,000 words a day, 5 days a week, like, why aren't we doing that anymore? It's so easy. You used to be able to do that. You wrote a book in a week, like, you can do this."
Mhm.
Like, I was surviving on coffee and I wasn't sleeping and, like, that wasn't and I was a lot younger then, like, I it just doesn't work that way, and it's just convincing myself that it's okay to not produce as much as I used to,
Mhm.
and, like, this year I'm trying to produce more, but, like, there was years when I was writing 9 books a year, and
Right.
and,
That's
like,
wild.
it's been, like, 2 books a year if I'm lucky. And
Yeah.
so to think back to that, and I'm like, "But you were producing so much, like, why can't you do that anymore?" And it's like, because you basically, like, wrote until you had nothing left, like, I completely tapped myself dry, and it was so hard to come to that understanding too of, like,
Mhm.
you did it to yourself, and, like, this is just who you are now, and you have to just work with what you got. And that doesn't make me a
Yeah.
failure either, because I know a lot of people are like, "Well, I'm a failure because I can't do what I used to do." And it's like, "No, you're
Right.
evolving." Like, you're just becoming a better version of yourself. You just had to you know what you're capable of, but you also know what those capabilities can result in if you don't reel yourself in, because you shouldn't be
Yeah.
going extreme every single time.
Yeah, exactly, and, like, there's also kind of a bit of a double pressure too, because first of all, we live in a hustle culture society where
Yes.
everything is fast, 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 more, 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 do, 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 like, buy, buy, buy,
Mhm.
that kind of thing, and second of all, just generally as women, there is a lot more pressure to keep everything tip top, right? Like, I am I can keep my house clean as well as take care of my child, as well as write, like, 3 books a year, and
Mhm.
it's almost worn as a badge of honor,
Yes.
um and that's something that I now have, like, rejected, I guess, like, for lack of another term, I reject that now, and so I'm like, I will write when I can because my daughter is 10. Eventually, she's already getting to the point where she's off with friends all the time, and I'm like, I'm gonna have all the time in the world when she graduates high school, like, she's 10, she still wants to hang out with me. So she's like, "Mom, you wanna hang out?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, let's do it," because
Yes.
eventually she's gonna be like, "Ew, mom, get out of my room." Like, "I'm with my
Yeah.
friends, I'm talking on the phone with my friends, get out," kind of thing, like, I'm already seeing glimpse of that kind of
Mhm.
preteen, And she's an only child, so she's still very, like, parent-oriented and adult-oriented because she spends most of her time with adults, and she's got, like, like, good close friends, but she likes being with the grown-ups, and so I feel like I might be able to squeak a few more years out of her, but
It's
then
like
she's gonna
12,
graduate
that's
and
when yeah.
she's gonna go, and I only have 1 kid, and so then I'm gonna be an empty nester, and I'll have all the time in the world, and I can be able and so that's kind of the way that I've started sort of talking to myself that these are different, like, I've started really working in seasons and cycles to reject that idea of the daily grind.
The daily
I
grind,
don't
yes.
do everything every day. I don't work out every day. I don't write every day. I don't, work every day. Sometimes I watch TV all day. Sometimes,
Yeah.
like, I
It's
just
okay not to do all the things, like, that's, like
yeah.
but it's programming your brain to, like,
Mhm.
accept because, like you said, hustle culture, I mean, oh my god, like, I feel like that's how I, like, was raised, like and it's not even, like, my
Yeah.
parents or anything, it's just the culture that I was in, and it's just, like, the more you do, the better, and I realized, like, when I said this year that I'm, realized I don't have to do all the things, it's because I realized last year, I was in constant competition with myself, which is,
Mm,
like, the most ridiculous thing. But it was like, I keep a to-do list of everything I have to do for the day, and I'm checking off like, "Oh, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that." And then the next day, I felt like I needed to grow that list, and I needed to outdo what I
oh,
did the day before, and I was doing this every single day, and I'm like, "Why am I so exhausted? Why am I so tired?" And it's like, because every time you sit down to, like, watch TV, which, like, you used to do to, like, refuel, like, your creative well,
mhm,
you feel guilty, so, like, while you're doing that, you're folding laundry or, like, you're feeding your
mhm,
sourdough or, you're not just allowing yourself to just sit down and just, like, enjoy, like, some peace and quiet or, like, enjoy a
mhm,
TV show, and yeah, so, like, at the end of, December, I decided to just let all that go, and I'm not gonna keep like, I still keep a to-do list because it's just who I
mm,
am, but also what was really eye-opening to me, and this goes back to me keeping my notebooks and things like that. I keep all of my old planners and all of my old, like, I have, like, to-do list books and stuff, and I went back and I
okay,
looked at one from, like, 3 years ago, and I had a week back then, I had a daily to-do list, and I had a weekly to-do list, and I had a monthly to-do list because 'cause I'm crazy, and now I just really have, like, a daily one, so I went back and
right,
looked at that, and I realized that my weekly to-do list was the same length as my current daily to-do list, and I'm like, "Well, that's why I'm exhausted because 'cause I'm trying to do all the
mhm,
things, and it's
yeah,
ridiculous." So, yeah, it's a lot of self-evaluation, I feel like, especially being, an indie author because you are your boss.
yeah,
So, like, there's no separation from, like, the to-do lists and all that stuff, when it comes to the writing world. You have to do that yourself. And I think
yeah,
that's also hard too, because also you feel like you're not working and it's like, well, I get to stay home for a living. Like, was that I don't have to go to the office and I don't have to, do all that stuff. So I should be grateful that I'm home and that I should be doing more. And yeah, it's
mhm,
all like stuff in your head that you have to overcome. And I know
yeah,
a lot of um, like, authors, their main goal is to become a full-time author, and,
mhm,
like, that's their dream, and honestly, I will never go back to doing I can never have a boss again, like, I've accepted that, I quit my job in 2016, so it's been 10 years. Oh my god, it feels like
mm,
4. Um, it's been 10 years, and I can never go back to it, but it's not that easy either,
yeah,
because being your own boss is not fun at times.
yeah, those, employee evaluation days are always interesting.
Yep, exactly, which is, my to-do list, thing.
Yeah,
Going back and
yeah.
reevaluating that and realizing like, "Oh, okay, you're doing too much."
Yeah, and I went, I did go back like, once I stopped designing covers, I did go back to work, and now I work part-time as a librarian, which is, like, great because
Fun.
it's still in the book world, I still get
You're
to,
socializing and yeah.
yeah, and it's taken the financial pressure off of my but the interesting thing is that, like and this is kind of a good movement to your editing and stuff like that, because I find a lot of authors, specifically if they want to write full-time or they want to work from home, a lot of authors do other things
Yes.
as well. for a more stable income stream in
Yes.
order to be able to like, for me, not having the financial pressure on my books to perform makes me a better writer and helps my creativity and all of that kind of stuff, and so I went from, like I always say, like, "Oh, well, I went back to work," but I didn't because I was always working. I was just always
Exactly.
I
You were
just
just
made
working
my
for
own
yourself.
job instead of
Yeah.
working for someone else kind of thing,
Mhm.
and, so when did you start getting into the editing? And was this like a phase over thing from your corporate job or like how did that all work?
So, yeah, so I left my corporate job in 2016, and then I was writing full time. I also was ghostwriting under a different, pen name for, like it was like a group of us under
Mhm,
one author, which I've signed NDAs, so I'm not allowed to say anything, but I was writing under that. So that was like a separate income from my own books. And then I gave up on that. And then I focused solely on my own stuff. And then there was that pressure of like, well, if I don't sell this many books, like, am I
mhm,
going to be making money? Like, I have to get this book out because if like I don't, I'm not going to be hitting like, the money that I need for to survive the next month or whatever. Like, I am so lucky because my fiance, I mean, we've been together for 23 years. Like, he's taken on a lot of, like, if I can't afford things, like, he's paid for it and all that stuff. And, like, thank God for him because he's never been like, you need to go back and go to work. Like, even when
yeah,
we were like struggling, like the first 2 years of when I quit my job, like, it was rough. Like,
mhm,
I I can make a dollar stretch because of that, and I actually feel like everybody should go through that because you
yeah,
realize, like, how much you waste and, like, how much stupid money you spend.
mhm,
So and that's when I started learn how to cook and all that, so now and I prefer cooking now. Um, but yeah, so then I went into Cassie kept asking me, so, I do developmental edits and line edits for Cookieland Publishing, and Cassie is the owner of Cookieland Publishing, and she was asking me for years to be an editor.
mhm,
But I always had the voice in the back of my head that I am not good enough to be an editor. Like, who do you think you are to, like, think and plus, when it comes down to it, like, at the time, I'm terrible with commas, so I'm like, "How can I" and she's like, "Well, you're not gonna copy edit, like, you're gonna do developmental edits, line edits, like, a totally different thing."
yeah,
And so, like, I looked into it more, and, I mean, I've been critiquing, like, beta reads, like, I have, like, my group of author friends, and we, like, used to read for each other and leave notes, and I still did it for Cassie, and she would be like, "This is an edit that you're doing for me. Like,
mhm,
this is exactly what people are looking for." So, I finally was like, "I'm sick of, like, struggling with money." I'm like, "Let me just" and always, like, forcing my writing
mhm,
to be all about, like, "Well, how is this gonna help support me?" Like, I can't write what I want because that's not what the market is, and, like, I was
right,
making a lot of decisions based on that. So I was like, "You know what?" And I was getting bored too. Like, you
mm,
even if you love to write, sometimes it's like, you just need something, like,
yep,
just, like, a different change of pace or
yeah,
so I started editing, and it immediately went really well. Like, I realized that every time that I was beta reading and doing these critiques for my friends, it was literally I was doing an edit, and I didn't
mhm,
even realize it. Um, and I say, like, my line edits do include developmental edits because I just can't help myself because that's how I
mhm,
edited for so long for my friends. Um, so yeah, I just got into that, and it's been great. Now I'm actually closed to new clients because I have so many, that just use me all the time and they write so much
mhm,
faster than I do. So I'm constantly, my schedule's always packed. Like right now I have an edit and then I have an edit next week and then I have an edit in 2 weeks. Like, so like I'm
yeah,
like booked up, but it's not, and I also realized editing has made me a better writer.
mhm,
Because you pick up on things like, you read your own stuff and you don't pick up on things, but when you read other people's stuff, you pick up on things, and then, like, I'll be reading it and I'll be like, "Oh," and I'll make a comment like, "Oh, don't do this because," and I sit there going, "I do that."
mhm,
So, like, it, like, kinda, like, triggers something in my brain because when I'm reading for pleasure, I don't allow myself to really, like, be the editor,
right,
but when I'm being an editor, I have to be an editor, so it, like, points out things that, like, I'm also doing. So,
yeah,
it definitely made me a better and it's nice because it's, like, it's extra income, so you don't have to, like, focus completely on writing, and then talking about other jobs too, every Thursday, I would go to my parents' house because my dad owned his own company, and I would do all his admin work for him on Thursday, and at first, it was
Mm,
just to get me out of the house, and my dad knew I was struggling, so he was, like, throwing me money too,
mhm,
and which he continued to do afterwards. It was just nice to get out of the house. Even if I was just going to be in my parents' house, like, to do everything, it
mhm.
was like, talk to my dad, and, like, I would talk to my mom, and, like, I would be in a different setting, and, like, sometimes it was just nice to just change scenery.
Yeah.
And so my dad recently just retired with my mother, and my fiancé took over his company.
Oh,
So I have been helping because I know the whole admin side of the business, so I've been helping, like, merge
well,
the
that's cool.
so that's been a lot of work too.
Well, that's
But
interesting. You don't see a lot of that anymore, the passing of the businesses down from like,
yeah,
down
well,
the family line, right? Like
my fiancé worked for him for 20 years, I think.
mm,
So he knows the business inside and out. So my dad was like, "Well, I wanna retire. Like, I built this business for the past 40 years. I don't wanna just, like, end it." So, it was just, like, a
yeah.
nice, like, transition.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I have a friend who has a business, and she's retiring this year, and, she passed the business on to her daughter-in-law. So, yeah, kinda her
Yeah.
son's wife, and so that's yeah, it's just kinda neat seeing that kinda stuff come back. I'm
Mhm.
from Saskatchewan in Canada, and, um, we had a farm, so that whole idea of, like, passing things down along
Yeah,
generations and stuff like that is nostalgic for me. I like
exactly.
that,
It's like
but
keeping it alive and, like yeah. I mean, my
mhm,
dad's, like, 40 years of his life, he's having a hard time letting go, but
of course. Yeah.
yeah, and, like, that man can't sit still, so, like, him trying to retire, it's been very interesting, so which I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
that's
a
when my phone rang before, I'm like, "That's him because he's bored."
yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I wanted to say too, like, you edit for me, just, like, for complete transparency. I'm super biased because, like, I won't let anybody else read my contemporary books, like, until I
Okay.
won't publish a book until you've read it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, that and my experience with that and with editing. Um I think the reason like, the thing that makes an editor a good editor, and this is something that you have, is that never once have I gotten an edit letter back from you or notes back from you and felt like, "Oh, you're just telling me to write it how you would write it." Like, you actually are almost to the opposite end of that, where
I'm
you're like,
extremely different.
"Allison, this doesn't sound like you. Like, you don't write women like this. You don't write like, situations like this. Like, you need to lean more into your own voice and your own writing and your own, like,
Mhm.
characterization, and I think that's, like, what truly makes a good editor, and I had an editor who basically rewrote my whole story and just wrote it the way that they would write
They
it,
want
right?
it.
And they said,
Yep.
"You have to write it like this," and I'm like, "But why?" And then I lost, like I never published that book because I felt like it lost its spark and its magic and its whatnot, and I didn't use that editor again, but and I've had a few different like, finding an editor is almost like finding a doctor, right?
Yes.
Like, someone who truly understands you and what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it, and so, like, almost like so between Jolene Perry, who's, like, one of my favorite humans in the world, and you, she's alpha reads for me, and she's like the vibe check. She's like, "Mm-mm, this doesn't sound like something" like, you're listening to the market, you're listening
Yes.
to whatever, like, you're trying to make this trope a thing, and it's not a thing, right?
Mhm.
And then so she vibe checks it, and then as I write it, and then you edit it, and I feel like that is the reason why, like, my Stryker Brothers books particularly have always gotten, like, the most attention and have always been, like, my best-selling series, is because, like, between the 2 of you, you just kept me in my lane, and I think, like, working with an editor, it's really important that, they believe in you as a writer, right?
100%, yeah. Well, that's my whole thing, and if, like, you've had other editors and then you have me as an editor, you might be like, "She edits strange," because I will very rarely go into your actual manuscript and start changing things.
Mhm,
I will if the sentence structure is off, I will rearrange your own words to make the structure correct. If I think that, like, I say, like, "Show, don't tell," because, like, you're telling something, I'm not gonna go in and rewrite it for you because I'm not you. The
mhm,
only person that can tell your story is you, and it is your
mhm,
voice. So why am I trying to be your voice? Because I'm not. I'm trying to make you bring your voice to the book in the best possible way that you can. So I'll comment show don't tell and then I'll be like, and here's an example. And I will give you an example of like how you can show it because a lot of times like because especially in my own experience as a writer, getting edits and someone's like, "Show, don't tell," and I go, "Okay, well, if I knew how to do that, I wouldn't have wrote it that way." Like, because especially when you're going
Yeah.
through like 300-400 comments, you're just like, "Well, I don't know how to," you know? So I always need an example. So I always try to give an example. And if you wanna use my example, go ahead. That's fine.
Mhm.
But it's not my choice to go into your manuscript and change your words and try to dictate what your voice should be. And
Mhm.
I am very passionate about voice with a writer because especially with AI coming about,
No.
because I have noticed, especially in reading for pleasure and stuff, I can tell when a book has been using AI because there is
Mhm.
very specific words that they use. There is very specific like ways they structure a sentence and I could almost immediately pick it up. And if I was editing that book, I'd be like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything. If you wanna use AI, that is your prerogative. Like, I'm not gonna
Mhm.
throw my opinions at you. But it is very obvious that this is not your voice, and I think
Mhm.
that's where people come in with the whole AI conversation is, like, they're gonna take over and authors are gonna be obsolete. Never, because they cannot
No.
nail voice. There is no voice to it. It is very generic. It is very, like it might sound great, like you can put a
Mhm.
clip it like a clip, I wouldn't say snippet and clip at the same time. You can take a clip of, like, AI, like, you can say, like, you know, write this for me, and it gives you a clip of what it is.
Mhm.
It might sound great, but when you take that and you put it into your book with your
Mhm.
voice, it is going to stand out so much because it is clearly not your voice and it doesn't follow the pattern of your voice. So, yeah, voice is very important to me. And in the age of AI, I think it's even more important that you
Mhm.
stick to it. And I feel like if you take it out of the writing world and you think about all of the singers that have longevity, it's because they have very specific ways that they sing, they have very specific tones, and you
Mhm.
hear their song on the radio and they don't say who it is and it's a new song, you know who it is immediately. And
Mhm.
that's what I want with especially like my authors that I edit for. I want people to pick it up and be like, "Yep, I know exactly who this is. This
Mhm.
is." I'm like, "You've published under so many names, so I don't want to use the wrong name, but I'm like, this is Allison Martin or Allie Brennan
Mhm.
or, you know, so I want them
Yeah.
to pick it up and know that's exactly who it is, even without looking. Because
Mhm.
that's another thing. I read, for pleasure so many authors and I read the exact same author over and over and over. Like I find a favorite author, I'm reading your entire backlist. Like
Mhm.
any book that you have ever written, I will find and I am reading it.
Mhm.
And I and it's because I like your voice. So
Yeah.
why are you gonna change that? So, yeah, so I really feel when you look for an editor, you need to find an editor that champions you as a writer, but
Mhm.
also is very passionate about you keeping your voice. Like, I
Yeah.
had one client, she actually wrote kinda telly, and you know me,
Mm.
I'm very big on, like, show, don't tell. Like,
Yeah, it's
I wanna
triggering for
be
me.
yeah, like, I have my, like, roller coaster theory, I'm sure I've thrown that at you, like, so many times where it's like, I don't wanna be on the ground watching you on the roller coaster going through, like, the whole experience, I wanna be in that car next to you, I wanna be in the experience, I wanna be going through it, and I did have one author that was very telly, but she was writing rom-coms, and it was
Mm.
funny, and I'm like,
Oh, okay.
I normally would tell you show, don't tell, but it's funny and it has so much voice and character, it's like to it that I don't want you to show here. And I remember
Mhm.
she came back at me and she's like, "Well, why are you telling me not to show? Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm always told like show, don't tell." I'm like, "Because your voice, like,
Yeah.
it works. Like the
Yep.
telling works for you." So, yeah, and she said, "Well, other editors would say like you should show." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it gives so much to your character, like, it adds so much, like, of that who they are just because of the way you describe things and stuff, that even though you're telling, it's like it it creates so much more of that picture that showing actually wouldn't even be able to do, and that's
Mhm.
usually when I tell you to show, don't tell, it's because I wanna be able to see that visual, the picture, like, you know, create this
Right.
painting for me. Yeah, so But that's when it goes back to, like, when you know the rules, you can break them type thing too.
Yeah, and when it works, right? Like,
Exactly.
I briefly edited, I didn't like it, not that I didn't like, the work that I was the books I was reading, that was great. I loved reading people's books, but it just like, keeping notes and stuff is just not how my brain works. But
Yeah,
anyways,
it's a lot.
I edited this one book, series from this guy, and it was a Portal Fantasy, and I remember in my edit letter telling him I can't remember the name of the book, but I was like, "This, by all, like, rules and reasons and structures of writing, should not work." This
Mhm.
whole story should not work, but it is amazing. Like, it was so cool to see things that are different, and that goes back to the AI too, right? Like, AI can only write what is fed into it. It can only do what has been done before, and
Exactly.
so without leaning into your voice and without writing the book yourself, um, you can't really do though like, you can't really make it your own, you can't really bend those rules, you can't really
Exactly.
find that place for yourself, and every book that has exploded and every, series that has gone viral and all of these things, like, nowadays, maybe it's a little bit different because of the TikTokification of book marketing, which is, like, a whole
Mhm.
thing, that I have
Yeah,
opinions about, but,
same.
but um like, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when these stories were coming out and self-publishing was booming, it was because people were breaking rules. They were telling
Yes.
stories that weren't normally told. They were telling, like, obviously with representation, there were stories that were being gatekept that were allowed to be told, and we're learning like, "Oh, shocker, people like different stories, and they like seeing different, cultures and different people and different situations and different, tropes and all those kinds of things."
Yep.
But, like, that's always where I go to with especially with the AI. I feel like it's such a sensitive topic right now because 'cause we're in the
Yes.
full-on witch hunts
Mhm.
of AI,
Agreed.
right? Where people are looking for it, and they're gonna roast you if you use one M dash in your whole book, and
And
I'm
I've
like, "Oh,
used
no."
M-dashes my entire career, so it's like
I'm
though
like, "Oh,
it's funny
shit."
because I've also had to change my editing approach too, because I just had, an edit that I did, and there was an astronomical amount of M dashes, and I was like, "I'm not saying you're using AI," and I 100% do not think that she was, but I'm
Mhm,
like, "There is such a witch hunt right now for
mhm.
people that write with AI, and for some reason, M dash has become that, like, symbol of AI,
Yeah,
even though I know that it is a totally normal way to write, and, like, I use M dashes all the time.
yeah,
Um,
same.
I would just go in and I would get rid of a lot of these, and it turns out that she said that she usually does go back in and get rid of them, like, to
Right.
begin with, because she knows she overuses them, but she was on such a tight deadline, she just sent it to me
Oh,
thinking,
yeah,
like, it'll be fine, but I picked
yeah.
up on it. Um, and yeah, so, like, I have to be aware of those things
Mhm,
because I don't want you to be like, someone calling you out for AI just because 'cause you're using an M dash when I know damn well that you're, like, an amazing writer and, like, you can structure a story and, like, reading it from, page 1 to the end, like, I can tell this was not AI, but people will
mhm.
just they don't know, and they'll just pick up just based on that.
Yeah, and I find it's because people are really in their feelings about it
Yes,
at this particular moment, right? Like,
for
when you
sure.
and fair enough, like, as someone who went to school for art and design and stuff like that, like, I
Mhm.
get it. The world is a dumpster fire, all of these things, you don't know what's real, you can't trust anything
Yep.
anymore, like, it's just anxiety inducing to go on social media and, all of these things, and you're like, "Is that real? Is it not real? Is it happening? Is it not happening? Am I being
So
gaslit? Like, who's gaslighting me?"
lately,
Um
so much stuff, like, I look at it and I'm like and then I always have to double check things, and then I see people are like, "Oh, it's AI, it's AI, it's AI." I'm like, "Who's not reading the comments and thinking this is real?"
Mhm.
It's mind-boggling. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it is, and it's getting better and better, like, I'm having to, like, lean closer and closer
To
and,
notice
like,
things.
look
Yeah.
deeper to, like, really notice these things, and it's,
It used to
yeah,
be the fingers. That used to be the number 1 giveaway was the fingers.
yeah.
AI could
Er
not do hands.
No. No, and for the art and then now for the AI videos and stuff like that, I always watch the mouth because the mouth very I'm like, I have an auditory processing disorder, and so I usually like, I half lip read and I half
Mhm.
listen because my brain does not I need the 2 inputs in order to make
Decipher what's
sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, I'm the kind of person that you'll say something and I'll go, "What?" And then I'll answer your question. It's not that I didn't
yeah,
hear you, it's that I needed a second to deal with it, and so I because I kind of lip read, that's sort of how that's a tell for me now with
that's
the
how you've been
videos.
noticing?
Yeah,
Interesting.
because the mouth does not fit the words in the way
Yeah,
that I'm used to, like, lip reading people, and,
yeah.
yeah, so that's something that I always look for immediately when somebody's talking. But I'm like, what kind of dystopian hellscape do we live in right now that I'm
You have
like
to stare at the
staring at
mouth.
people's mouths
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Are you real? Is this real? I don't know what," and so,
it's
for me, I've
crazy.
just kind of, like, backed off and I'm like, "I'm just gonna go outside and live in the real world and talk to, like, real humans
That's what I've
and
been
that kind of
doing.
stuff." And
Yep,
with the AI and the art and the writing and stuff like that, I'm not really like I'm not a out in the streets with the science kind of person, but I do believe in, like, doing what you can and fighting back in whatever way your nervous system can handle it. So for me, like, even what I've kind of been trying to focus on for my own writing and when I talk to other authors is deepening. Like, we just need to go because AI is so surface, like,
yes.
let's just focus on going deeper, right? Like,
There's
take that
no
trope,
emotion.
take that enemies to lovers trope that everyone loves so much and just, like, see if you can really deepen it to the point that no machine could replicate it, right? Like,
Ex Yes.
and
Which
that's
is
kind of
where,
like
like sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but, like, that's my one of my other big notes when I'm editing is, like, internal voice,
mhm,
because, like, we don't need, like, the characters' internals to be, like, giving us a play-by-play of what's happened. We're seeing what's happening within the scene. I want you to, like, get me in their brain. I want to go into the darkest, deepest part of their brain and understand what they're feeling, why they're going through this, like, so I can justify why they're either acting the way they are or like why they're portraying like, the situation the way they are. I can't know any of that unless I know those deep like feelings of them. And
yeah,
AI cannot do that. And
yeah,
that's like also that's another way of like knowing your character. You need to
mhm,
know your character in order to get into those deep thoughts of them. I think that all of the books that I, like, really like and the ones that, like, I love are the books that really dive deep into the character
mhm.
and, like, really give me a sense of who they are, like, the good, the bad, the ugly, but doesn't keep it surface level. Like,
Yeah.
gives me all of the messy, gives me all of, like, the emotions, and without that, like, you can write a book and it's good, but, like, I just don't feel like there's gonna be so much of a connection
Mhm.
either. Like, you
Yeah.
understanding a character, I think, is the biggest thing, and the book that I actually just finished, the couple has been together through the entire series. They're in their 30, and they were been together since college, and they're like the happy couple that everybody loves, and this is their
Mhm.
book, and they're together in the first scene, but they didn't believe in marriage, and now all of a sudden she wants to get married and he doesn't, so, like, they changed as people, but he's,
Mhm.
like, so perfect for her. So it was, like, trying to write that to
Mhm.
show why she's, like, pulling away from him even though he is perfect, like, was really hard, so I had to really dive deep into those internal thoughts and, like, those deep feelings to, like, yes, I know he's great for me, and I know that, like, I should be happy, but, like,
Mhm.
I want something different now, and does that make me a bad person? But if I would have, like,
Yeah.
AI'd it and kept it, like, surface level, she would have came across as, like, a bitch, excuse me, but,
Yeah.
like, and I'm like, I didn't
This is
want
not a
that.
wholesome this isn't a wholesome podcast, so you can
Okay, good. I'm like, I
feel
have been,
free.
like, controlling the cursing because I talk like such a New Yorker sailor,
I
like,
sh
I
yeah, I should have
I'm
told you that
terrible.
before we started. Don't worry about it.
I'm
I
like,
happily tap that little explicit button before I publish.
"Okay, good. Okay." I mean, I'm not gonna go just start, like, cursing like
Yeah.
crazy, but okay, now I know. So, yeah, like, that was my biggest and that's my note when I sent it off to my editor. I'm like, "I just need to make sure she's not a bitch. I need
Mhm.
people to understand why she loves him, but she doesn't think she can be with him anymore." Like
Yeah.
and that's their journey of, like, getting back together and stuff, but that was a
Mhm.
hard book to write because I really had to dive deep into that, like, thought process of the character. And yeah,
Yeah.
again, that's like something AI can't do. Like because it's so surface level. There's no
Yeah.
emotion behind it. It's like you
Yeah, and
need
it
that human experience to like be able to really project that out of the characters.
yeah, and I find that a lot of those things come from mannerisms and not like they come from those little things, those little moments that happen, the little ticks and character quirks kind of, right?
Mhm.
That stem from somewhere, and if you don't know where they stem from, then, um
Exactly.
then it doesn't make any sense, and it does seem superficial,
Mhm.
and I know, like, with especially with female characters, and if she's the character that's pulling away from him, she's gonna be judged. Like, it's just
Exactly.
unfortunately, it still happens that female characters are judged
All the
way
time.
higher, so you almost have to,
Harsh.
like, really, really dig into those little tiny things with her so that she doesn't that readers aren't like, "Well, she's just a s why she doesn't deserve him." She's just I interviewed somebody who was like said that that was their pet peeve when somebody says, "Well, she doesn't deserve him." And she's like,
I
"Who deserves anybody?" Right? Like, we're all flawed and we're all, a little bit, like, broken and a little
100%.
bit problematic, right? Like
But there is this thing, and I actually, as an editor, I am well aware of it, and I'll say, like, a comment about a female character, the main character, and I'll be like, "I don't agree with this, and I don't necessarily believe it, but I need to let you know that readers tend
Mhm,
to be very harsh toward a female character, especially females. Female
mhm.
readers can be very harsh. They are very forgiving of a male character, which is so ridiculous. Yet they are so harsh to a female character, and it drives me insane. So while this seems like a totally perfect, normal reaction and like something that like I can justify because of what she's been through, readers are going to think she's a bitch.
Mhm.
And you might be okay with that, but it might get you some bad reviews and it might get you like it's people to talk bad about it and then they're not going other people aren't going to read it. So you can soften her up a bit or you can add more context to make us understand why she is this way. And I'll say like I think this is ridiculous, but I just want you to know because
Yeah,
I don't want your book to get like, written off because you wrote a realistic, female character. But
yeah.
there's ways to like soften that blow, I guess, like which again
Yeah,
is so
and
ridiculous to me, but it's just something that I've been dealing with since I started writing in, like, 2007, and
yeah.
it hasn't gotten better.
Yeah, no, you are, actually, I used to joke that if I had a dollar for every time, an editor or beta reader told me I needed to make my female characters more likable, I wouldn't have to
Yep,
write,
likeable.
I wouldn't have to publish, I would just make enough money.
Yep,
But you are the first editor that has never said that to me. Never, not once. You have said things like there have been moments where you've made comments in my book where you're like, "Okay, I am leaning towards not liking her right now because I don't understand why she's making this decision."
well, that's
Right?
my whole thing, like, because again, I'm a writer at heart too, when it's like I'm a writer first, then an editor, so, like, and I'm also a human being, like, I've been
Mhm,
through life experience, I know things, like, people aren't as, black and white. There is so much gray area in a human, and I love when an author can show that in writing. Like, that's what I strive for. Um, but so many people out there think in black and white, and
mhm.
it's like you need to kind of appease them too to like just so you don't get your book like so nobody reads it. You want
Yeah.
people to read it. So there's ways to, like I said, soften it a little bit of like, they're veering towards not being likable, but if I could understand them, like if I could justify why they are acting this way, that'll help. Like, in my
Mhm,
mind, I know exactly why it is, but sometimes people need you to spell it out, and so I will, like, comment like that, but I always do say, like, "I get it." Like,
mhm.
I'd probably be acting 1,000 times worse, like, in this situation, but other people are gonna be like, "She's a bitch," and it's like, "She's not
Yeah,
likable. Get over it." Like, I don't know,
yeah.
like, I get so angry with that. It's like that you said that one person you, talked to, it's their pet peeve. Yes,
Mhm.
1,000%. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like I also like morally gray characters and, like, I just like 'cause I feel there's so much dynamic there and there's, like, so much to tell and there's a reason people are the way they are,
Mhm.
and if you bring that into your writing, I think that's, like, you'd be like, a instant buy for me all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I just love realistic characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like those little nuances. I mean, like going back to like Taylor Swift for a second. I think that one of the reasons why she appeals to so many people is because she's really good at describing mundane experiences. The
It's
smell of the coffee or the way that the screen door slams or the like just these
She
tiny,
creates a
tiny
picture.
little things
Yes.
that you
Mhm.
don't remember. Like my daughter is really into Taylor Swift right now, and she's really into like her country albums
A
at
debut.
the moment. Yeah, that one and Fearless and Speak Now, like
Fearless, yeah.
those first 3, and listening to them and the fact that she was, like, 16 to 19 when she released those albums and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Even, like, as a 40-year-old woman, like, when you listen to them, you're like, "Oh,
It
dang,
brings you back.
I remember being, like,
Yes.
15 and having a crush on a boy, and he didn't want" like, it just those tiny little details, and I grew up on a farm in a prairie, like, very similar to, like, the Texas kinda area, but in Canadian. Um, and so I get that, like, I grew up on country music and I get, like, so those little references to, like, dusty cowboy boots and, like, all those things
All of that, yeah.
are what bring those senses forward, and the same thing goes with the books I read, and the ones that really stick out to me are the ones that don't necessarily have big explosive magic systems or crazy worlds or, like, super angsty couples, um, it's those tiny, tiny little things that come
The
out in the
relatable things.
character.
It's
Mhm.
those things where you can grasp onto and be like, "I can relate to this character so much." Like,
Yeah.
especially like Taylor Swift, don't get me started. I could talk hours about her, but, like, my favorite album of hers is actually Tortured Poets Department, and I have
Same.
listened to that album so many times, and it's just like to me, it's just so beautifully done, and it's not just the words and the lyrics, it's the way the lyrics, like, create the emotional, like, memory, I guess.
Mhm.
We've all been like, everybody has been through a hard well, for the most part, everyone has been through a horrible breakup or a horrible whether it's even, like, a best friend or it's a
Yeah.
boyfriend or whatever, and it's like she put into words
Mhm.
everything that you feel in those moments, and I'm just like, "How do you, like, do that?" Like, there's the one line she has, where it's like, "I'm just mad I gave you all my youth for free." I'm like, I
Mhm.
can think of so many people that, like, were in relationships for so long and they just kept thinking it would get better and it never did, and eventually they finally ended it after, like, a decade or whatever, and it's just like, I heard that lyric and I'm like, "Oh," like,
Yeah.
that's a way to put it, like, it's so true though, because it's like you think of, like, you all that time when you were so young, but yeah, so she put that into words and I
But the
just yeah,
interesting thing about that too, for me, is that she has a lot of like, I think it comes down to trusting your audience. Like, yeah, sometimes, like you said, sometimes you gotta spell it out for them, but you can spell it out for them in ways that still trust that they will make that connection. And if they don't make that connection, then they're not your ideal audience. They're not your
exactly.
reader, right? And so to say, like, even dusty cowboy boots, for example, right? Or the idea of giving your youth away for free. Never in any like, not in any of those words does it tell me how I should feel.
Yes, but it
But
elicits
there's
a
so
feeling.
many emotionally loaded words
Yes,
in that lyric too, and that's, like, to translate to writing and to going into those nitty-gritty and going deeper and getting the mundane things is that you can say what they're doing, what they're how they're behaving, what they're thinking. You can use words that are emotionally loaded without telling your reader, "This is sad. You need to
yes.
feel sad about this," right?
Okay, and that's another note as an editor that I always put in, like, your reader is smarter than you're giving them credit for. Like, that's one of
Mhm.
my, like, favorite, like, comments because I don't need you to tell me this because I just had a whole scene a chapter ago that basically showed all of this. Don't recap for me.
Mhm.
That's when you get into the internals. I wanna know your feelings, I wanna know your emotions, I wanna know, like, what that did to you. Don't recap what happened. I already know.
Mhm.
Like, give me something to grasp onto. Give me those emotions to, like, hit me in the feels and in my heart and, like, get
Yeah.
me to be like able to relate to you because now I witnessed the experience. Now I wanna know how you're experiencing it. And
Mhm.
then that's how you connect to a character because, like, how would they, internalize it and how they process it and, like, how, they go about it. That's how that I to me, that's what great makes great characters.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm curious about your thoughts on or the resources that you provide or the examples that you provide. Because like, for me personally, I don't read craft books. I don't read books about writing. I don't really like, um, I like to dig into because I'm a depth, not breadth kind of,
Mhm.
person. I like to read books on, like I'm reading a whole series of books on Jungian psychology and, like, learning about the like, your shadow self and your unconscious
Like,
versus your conscious and,
I'm
like
reading a book that's, like, manifesting and stuff, like, so I read
yeah.
I
But
also
I
love
l
history, so I'll read books on, like, the Gilded Age, so, like,
Oh,
I'm all over the
nice.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, same. I'll read anything, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but, like, I find that those books for me are so much more helpful in learning how to convey the human experience, to convey those small
Yeah.
details and to get those things. So, like, for someone that was listening that was maybe like, I like that. I'm like a newish writer and I really wanna go deeper. I really wanna, like, make sure my characters are emoting and acting in those emotions and stuff like that, what would kind of be your go-to resources or your, I hesitate to use the word advice 'cause I don't wanna, like, work on frameworks, but, like, where would you kind of guide somebody if they asked you that kinda question?
Yeah, so, like, to me, I'm just like, you don't even need to read anything about I'm like, just go based off of your own experiences, like, take a moment of, like, when you went through something, whether it was, like, the happiest moment in your life or the worst moment in your life, and sit in it. What was going through your head? What were you feeling? Like, what was going? Because we also get, like, reactions in our body, like, can you remember, like, what was like, were you frozen in time, like, because you couldn't believe what was happening? Or, like, was your heart racing? Like, start thinking about things like that. Um, b to be honest, like, in my own writing, like, going into that, I started reading all of these books on romance writing craft,
Mm,
and the book that I wrote directly after that, Cassie literally sent it back to me and said, "Throw all those books out, this is not you, and start
mhm.
over." And, like,
Yeah,
that has never happened to me before, and I thought I was hitting all the beats, I thought I was, like, writing what is gonna sell, and Cassie's like, "You completely wrote yourself out of this book." And she's like, Get rid of those craft books, like, it's destroying
yeah.
you as a writer." So, books can't really tell you how to feel. Like, you just
Mhm,
need to be able to tap into that side of yourself and remember those emotions. I mean, reading psychology books and stuff like that could probably help. I also for a short time I did it, I didn't do it for long, but, and I can't remember the name of it, but it, like, talks about personalities, like, you do that test and it starts with an A. I can't
Enneagram.
there we go, thank you.
Yeah,
I, like,
I
went
love
into
that
that
stuff.
and I saw, how it, like, broke down, like, the different types of people or whatever. So one of my characters, I was like, "Oh, he sounds like this." So then I read every single thing about, like, what made up that type of person, and I was able to
Mhm,
infuse that into my character, and people actually love that character, and I'm like, "I should do this more often," but I always forget. So I think that's also a great tool to use if you're into that stuff. I know some people get really deep into it, but it's great just to, like, discover personalities because
mhm.
also how you feel things isn't necessarily how your character is gonna feel something because their personality is not you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
to me, I just feel like just even watching TV, watching, like, different the reading as much as you can, seeing how other people explain things, and not reading craft books, reading actual just, like,
Other
other
books.
for me, like, other small town books, and I love romantic suspense, and I love, historical romance, like, and I also try to I should read a lot more small town romance than I do, but because I used to read it so much and I write it, I have no desire to read it
Mm,
anymore,
mhm.
which is
Yeah,
terrible. So, I read a lot of romantic suspense and I read a lot of historical romance, but, like and then I see
okay.
how other authors are, like, doing things, and then, I'll watch a TV show, and, like, I just finished, the newest season of The Diplomat. I don't know if you've ever watched that,
I haven't.
but it's with Kerry Russell, Felicity.
Okay. Mhm.
You're my
Yep.
age, so I'm like, you'll remember
Yes.
Felicity with the
I
haircut
do.
that was heard around the world. Um, Her and her husband, like, they're married, but they're separated, are the most toxic, like, couple that you can imagine. Like, they are just
Mm.
toxic and, like, not great towards each other, but it makes them so perfect for each other. And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I could never, like, tap into that myself because I'm not like them in any way whatsoever, but seeing how these writers, like, brought it out of these characters and how they are just so toxic, yet you're sitting there going like, "They need to get back together, they're perfect for each other because like, no one else is gonna put up with their bullshit, like, that's what it
Yeah.
comes down to. But, like, so I found that interesting and just watching how, like, the writers of that show developed these characters and were able to make us realize how toxic they are, but also how great they are together, even though
Mm.
they're toxic towards each other. Like, it's such a weird thing, and I'm like, "How do you even create that?" And they did. So I'm like, just like yeah, just going into other, like, avenues of, like,
Mhm.
TV, film, other books, and just experiencing how other writers do not don't copy them, but, like,
Mhm.
just, like, get an idea of, like, what they're doing, and then see how you can incorporate that into your own writing. I'm, like, really
Yeah.
big on, like, if you're a writer, you should be reading.
Yeah.
Like, you need to understand how other people are handling things, and, like, when I first started writing small town romance, that's all I read, and I really dug deep into, like, okay, well, they're developing characters this way, they're having secondary characters, like and then for me with small town romance, the town itself is a character, and you really need to expand and make that town its own character in its own way, and, so I studied, like, kind of as I was reading how other authors did that.
Mhm.
And then I was able to take that knowledge, but then put my own spin on it.
Yeah. Find a way to make it yours.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah, craft books are great, especially, like, in the beginning, but it can make you think that what you're doing is wrong when it's not necessarily wrong because it's what works for you.
Yeah, it's kind of developing that ability to discern, to be able because
Yes,
we live in an information age and we're just inundated with so much knowledge and so much information
so
that it
much.
becomes overwhelming, especially when you're like, well, this person who's very popular or very successful says I should do it this way, but then this person who's also very successful says I should do it this other way, and those two ways contradict each other. Like, people who are writing craft books or who are teaching writing classes and that kind of stuff, they are speaking with their whole chest and they're speaking very confidently because it's what they did, it's what worked for
Works
them,
for
but that
them.
that doesn't mean that you have to, like, take it as gospel, right? Like,
Exactly.
you are allowed to hack and that's how art has been made for all of eternity, like, even going back to AI too and being like, well, there's that bullshit argument, that comes about, like, where it's like, well, for all of history, people have been taking from other artists and have been inspired by other art and other artists and copying and
Inspiration
stuff
is
like
one
that.
thing.
But even, like, when I was in art school, we had assignments that were like, paint something in the style of Van Gogh, paint something
Mhm,
in the style of Jackson Pollock or whatever. And so, yes, we did have to literally copy. For one, we weren't making money off of it. We weren't, like, sending those
mhm.
pieces out and trying to, like, claim them as our own. They were definitely copies. But, like, even back way back in the day of patronage, like, you would hire painters would hire junior artists or upcoming artists to paint for them in their style. But the thing is, it's just like with technology and with AI, everything just it's just moving so fast that there's
So
no
quickly.
that there's that it becomes problematic, right? Like that these authors and these like my books were stolen um to train
Same.
AI
Me
and,
too.
that I have feelings about that, and, like, I
I have a
know
lot of
artists and I
feelings.
work with artists that do character art for me, and, like, I can see how terrified they are about their art being scraped and not wanting to post it and that kinda stuff, and it's just like so, my point is, I guess, that being inspired by somebody and when you're very first learning and you have an author that you're like, "Oh, man, I would love to write small town romances like they do." Sure, study it, read it, look at it, like, pick it apart and however you wanna do it, and then
Make
find a
it your
way
own.
like, what's happening is you're hacking up all of these different other art pieces, and you're finding little bits that work and reassembling them around you. and around,
Yes.
like I sent one of my Stryker Brothers books to an influencer and they said it read like a Devney Perry book. Did I like I didn't go and, like, write a Devney Perry book because she writes
No.
Devney Perry books, right? I wrote
Mhm.
my book, but there's so many descriptions of mountains in my books that people associate that, like, Devney
Yes.
Perry's love of her own landscape is like people can see that I also love where I live, and I love the the nature and the environment and the landscape of where I live, and I infuse that into my book, so I have the same passion for setting as Devney Perry does, and that's what it is, that's why people make that connection, and so it's okay to, like, be inspired by, or to be like, "Oh, you really love this, and I want to love something as much as you love that thing, but I'm not going to try to be you and love what you love. I'm gonna try." Does that make sense? That I'm trying to, like, get that same level of passion.
You're Yeah, you're allowed to be inspired. I mean, it's the same thing like when, actors or actresses are interviewed and they're like, "Well, who do you look up to as an actress?" And, like, I was just watching, I watched the New Heights podcast, with the Kelsey brothers, and they
Oh, yeah.
always like, they'll ask when they have, different actors on, and it's always interesting to see who they say, and most of the time, it's, like, old time, like, actors
Mhm,
and stuff like that, but it's still they got their inspiration from somebody. You
mhm,
know, like, I was reading small town romance. Did I have any desire to write small town romance? I was writing young adult at the time, but I
mhm,
loved these books so much that it was like, "This is what I wanna do." I'm
mhm.
not gonna copy off of anyone, obviously, because I've had that happen to me too, and don't get me started on that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I was like, "I wanna create my own worlds. I wanna create my own small towns. I wanna create my own characters that live in these towns," and, like, but going back to with most books, like, there's certain criteria to make it a small town romance or to make
Mhm.
it like, like, yeah, there's a reason Hallmark Christmas movies are all the same plots or all the same things. It's like, it's just what works.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, each character is different, and that's, I
Mhm,
think, how you make your books your own, like, you follow, like, the structure or whatever, but you infuse that voice of yours and take, the emotions and the characters and stuff, and that no one can copy that
mhm.
because that's you, and
Yeah,
it's literally not something that can be duplicated because they're not you,
yeah,
unless they copy you word for word. Like, they're not gonna be able to, create what you created. So I think it's okay to get inspiration, and that's why I say it's very important to, like, keep reading and just to see how other people do it, and then by doing that, you develop your own style.
yeah.
'Cause I think it's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
reading a style too, and I also think that, like, having written in young adult, and maybe you'll agree with this too, like, it gave me, like, a different perspective of how I write adult books, because young adult is very much like, um I mean, teenagers are angsty, so it's very,
Mhm.
like, emotion-driven, like, characters, and I have those in my adult books, and I feel like it's because I wrote young adult for so long that, like, I developed that emotional side of characters.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's almost why I moved from writing YA to writing adult is because I kept getting these, like, I kept getting reviews that were like, "I hate these characters, they make such stupid decisions," and I was like, "Dude, they're 15." Like, no one makes good decisions when they're 15, and but because
Yes.
self-publishing is an adult readership, like, I was writing teenagers and they were acting like teenagers and they were very angsty,
Mhm.
they made really, irrational decisions and shot themselves in the foot multiple times with whatever was happening, and then people just didn't really like that, and I'm like, "Why?" So if readers are expecting adult decisions out of these characters, then why don't I just write adult?
Adult exactly.
And make them they still make bad decisions because I'm 40 and I still make bad decisions,
Yes.
you know?
Uh, I love that you're saying this. You can finish, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm a rambler, so if you have
Oh,
something
because
to add it.
my so one of my books was a young adult book. It was at the time, it was called Never Again. I have since got my rights back from it was with Penguin. Before it was Penguin Random House, it was with Berkeley
Okay.
Penguin, and it was called Never Again, and I got the rights back, and it's now called, um, Falling for My Ex.
Mm.
And when I wrote that book, I wrote it as a young adult book. And when it got acquired by Penguin, new adult was on the rise and it was huge. I had
Mhm,
never read a new adult book. I had no
mhm.
idea what they were about, and she's like, "If you can age them up, we will give you a deal." So I went in and I wrote, and at that time, like, Jamie Maguire was huge with, new adult, Colleen Hoover was huge with adult, Tamara Weber, like, all of these people
Mhm.
were coming out with new adult books that were massive, and my mom was reading them. I was not reading them yet. I was still very much in the young adult world, and my mom's like, "You should really read some of these new adult books to get an idea." And I'm like, "No, I just have to age them up. What's the difference between an 18-year-old in high school and an 18-year-old in their first year of college?"
Mhm.
That book released, and people were like, "She makes such stupid decisions, like, I she's such an idiot, like, I don't understand, she acts so young." And I'm like, "She's 18. Do you know how many dumb decisions I made when I was 18 years old? Like, you're acting like she should be some, like, I don't know, 41-year-old sitting at, like, a desk or something, like, she's that's
Yeah,
not her. She's an 18-year-old, and they are messy, and they are complicated, and they run on emotion." And I'm like, and that's
yeah.
what I wrote, and
And
I
they get
got
a first taste of freedom,
yes.
so they have no one regulating them.
Exactly. So I'm like, I that's why I wrote that, and yeah, people hated her. So when I got the rights back and I self-published it, I literally wrote, like, an author letter that went with it and said, like, "She makes dumb decisions, but I made dumb decisions at 18." And I feel like if you understand growing up and making the wrong choice, and even if you're older reading this now, looking back, like, you're the same way, like, "Oh, I made some of those stupid choices too." Like, I felt like I had to put that in there because I'm like,
Mm.
I don't understand why people aren't understanding this. And then I realized I wrote for a younger audience and it was a much older audience that was reading the book.
Yeah, and
And
it's kind of
and
interesting
she's
how quickly people forget what it's like to be a
a
teenager.
teenager.
Yeah,
Exactly. I'm like, I don't know. I made a lot of dumb decisions when I was young. So I was just like, it blew my mind. I'm like, "What? Did you guys never like, are you perfect? Like, I don't understand." Like, because
yeah.
she was dating a guy but the love interest was someone else. So, and I think that kind of like caused a problem too. But again, if it was a guy, if the roles were reversed, it probably would have been fine. But with the female
Yeah.
character doing it, it was like a big issue.
I
And I
wrote
was just,
1 new adult book. 1, and that was my first and last new adult book that I wrote because I was like it was when I was fairly new and, I was oblivious to, like, what readers accepted and what they didn't accept, and this was also in the whole, like, reviewers were trying to out-review each other on Goodreads, like, who could
yeah,
be meaner and who could
me,
use
oh,
more
that was a
gifts
rough
and who
time.
could yeah, it was not fun, but same thing, she had a one night stand with a guy who wasn't the main male character because the main male character had a girlfriend at the time, and she being a girl's girl was like, "Okay, well, that's off limits, like, he's cute, but
Mhm.
whatever." Moving on, so is this other guy is also cute, and I'm lost and traumatized and trying to escape my past and, like, all of these kinds of things, and so, like, I'm just gonna try and forget, and where she had this one night stand, oh my goodness, people did not like that, and again, like, she's such an idiot, and she's so, like all and I'm like, "Dude, the main guy character was he had a girlfriend, and so he was actively, like, hooking up with another girl on page with
But
so
they forgave him.
at that point in my career, I was like, "I don't get it. I don't understand where all of this, like, anger and vitriol is coming from," and I'm like, "I'm just not gonna do that again. No." Like, "No, thank you." And my
Which is
most
but you
hated
s
book
which
sorry.
is funny because there's a new adult book, and I'm not gonna I mean, most people probably figure out which it is, but, the very first chapter, the main guy character is, like, on drugs, and a girl's, like, going down on him. That's not the main character, and
Mhm.
everyone loves him. They think
He's
he's,
so
like, the
broken and
greatest
beautiful.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, "You're telling me this," and I'm like, "It's not much different," but, like, yeah, and it's just
Such a trigger
amazing.
for the "I can fix him," right? That's a whole
Yes.
trope, right? Like, "Oh, "I can
Yeah.
fix
Oh,
him,"
for
you know?
sure.
It's
But it's
just
just so
I'm
funny how it
yeah,
all goes back to that too with the whole female character and stuff and how they can't get away with it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I then wrote I actually wrote a sequel, well, not a sequel, I wrote another book in that series. So I wrote 3 new adult books. Penguin bought the 2nd book, and then they didn't buy the 3rd book, so that book just sat there, and I thought that was the best book in the entire series because it brought it all together.
Mm,
And then when I got my rights back, I immediately was like, "This book, it's time, it's getting published."
mhm.
And I just have to say I made more money self-publishing it than I did through, traditionally publishing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when people ask me, like, whether they choose self-publishing or traditional publishing, I really think it comes down to what you can do for yourself and what the market and the audience is doing. Like, I
Yeah.
find romance to be, particularly contemporary romance, like the profit margins are much higher to self-publish because the readers are voracious, they want more, the books are shorter. Like, if you're, part of the reason why I stopped self-publishing YA as well is because I was like, this needs to be on bookshelves. It needs to be in
Has to be
classrooms. It has
traditional
to be
to
with
reach your main audience.
yeah,
Yeah,
which the people who would
agreed.
appreciate it the most,
Yeah,
and same with, like, those big doorstopper fantasies, right? Like, they just do better in traditional publishing.
100%.
And so weighing those options and knowing what to like, which direction to go, there isn't really, like, a right or a wrong way to do it, but I have found a lot of particularly contemporary romance authors that I talk to say that they do way better
Yeah,
self-publishing.
yeah, it took me 7 years to get those books back, and within the 1st year, I made more money than I did in all 7 years, so
That's
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, it's crazy, and then but that's the other thing too where we were talking about before how, like, being self-published, you can, like, choose what you want, like, you get to make the choices and you don't have to follow what the trends are or what the traditional publishers are telling you,
Mhm,
and I noticed that a lot of because you said shorter books, and I do write shorter books. My books are, like, 60 to 65K, like, that's, within, like, um what I stick with. But I've been noticing, like, a lot of contemporary writers, like, Lucy Score, for example, her books are so long, and I'm like, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years, whatever it was, I'm like, that was not the standard. Like, and
mhm,
I'm noticing more and more people are writing longer and longer books because it became, like, okay through self-publishing. We used to have a chart. I'm sure you know this, like, if
mhm,
you're writing a romance book, contemporary romance, it should be 60,000 words to 80,000 words. If you're
mhm,
writing a fantasy book, it should be 80,000 words to 100,000 words. Like, that used to be an
mhm,
actual chart, and you were supposed to follow that. And,
mhm.
self-publishing allowed people to be like, "I'm not doing that."
Yep,
And
write whatever I
it's
want.
worked.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's worked, and I noticed that a lot of readers actually love the longer books. I wish I could write them. I can't. I have trained myself for so long to stick to that word count.
Yeah.
I can't do it any like, I try, and I'm just like, I'm just adding filler just to add words." So, yeah,
Yeah,
but
and,
again, what works for you.
yeah, exactly, and a lot of like, I know that, like, my Stryker brothers, for example, they're longer, they're around 90 to 110,000, I think the longest one is 108,000 or something like that, and, but because there's 6 siblings and there's so much happening around, like, I do find that there's also kind of layers to romance novels as well, right? Like, there's your, like, straight up romance, contemporary romance, where it's the couple and the conflict that's keeping them apart is related to the couple in some way. It's a boss,
Mhm.
it's a this, it's a that, it's a mother-in-law. Um, whereas, like, with romantic suspense, you also have the suspense plot. Like, you've got the whole mystery thing that's going on. You have all the family members. You have, if you're writing a saga and stuff like that. So
Yep.
those have started and because, like, this brings us right back to the start of our conversation with secondary characters, and so much of it, I think, is because people are more interested in the worlds around the characters than they are just the 2 main the 2 main love
For sure,
interests, right?
100%, yeah, yeah, and that's why I always, like, focus on my secondary characters because they will carry your series, even if they're never gonna get their own books, like, people
Mhm,
just like to see them. Like, my Red Maple Falls series, I have Terry and Walt, who are based on my grandparents, and they own a cafe in Red Maple Falls, the Happy Apple, and people love them so much. Like,
mhm,
Terry is like this I call her a fiery redhead, and she wears ridiculous heels and leopard print because my grandma loved her leopard print and she wore heels even though, like, I don't know. I remember when she was like 80 years old, she showed up to a holiday wearing flats and she's like, I'm wearing old lady shoes. I just can't do it anymore. I'm like, you're 80. So, like, I have based this character on my grandmother, and people love Terry and Walt. They don't have their own story. They're married. They're, like, in their, like, late 60s, but, like, people expect them to be in every single one of my books. So
Mhm.
when they pick up a Red Maple Falls book, they know that Terry and Walt are gonna be yelling at each other in the middle of the restaurant, and they're gonna be bickering, and Terry is going to be saying the most inappropriate things. And
Mhm.
that's just something you create with those secondary characters, and then you're able to bring them throughout. And then what I also love about secondary characters too, like if they're not gonna get their own books, you can give them little like stories and like they can like have their own moments too. And as you grow the world within, as long as you keep that focus on those main characters, you can still have those little side stories. And I
Yeah.
love
Yeah. And that ties into the marketing side of things too, right? Like you can give your readers things that are extras and you can kind of keep them in the world and put your little Easter eggs in there
oh, for sure.
and
Well,
that
my
kind of stuff
marketing
too.
my Vine Valley series, which is the one that I've been working on, the one I just finished is Vine Valley. There's another I love writing older characters. I don't know, my fiancé tells me that I'm an old lady at heart, like, he's like, "Do you
Me
want me to
too.
drop you off at the nursing home? Like, is that what you wanna do today?" Like, and
Yeah.
I've just always gone along with older people, like, I don't know, like, I did it it's because I love I loved my grandmother so much.
Mhm.
So, Odette is another older character in my Vine Valley series, and when I announced another book was coming out, it takes place at, like, a small town, but there's a vineyard, and the family owns the vineyard. So I had The Grapevine by Odette because she's, like, the town gossiper, and I had her write, like, a news article type thing, like a gossip site of her saying, like, "Something's, like, adrift," like, "I'm noticing there's tension between these
Yeah.
2 characters," and so I used that in my marketing, and I got so many emails, and they're like, "I love that you did that. Can you do that again?" And I'm like, "It took a lot of time for that little tiny article." But I'm like, "I'm gonna do it for the next release because it went over so well." But it's because
Yeah.
people love Odette, and they loved, like, that little extra thing that she, added to the story.
Yeah. That's amazing. So,
Yeah, use those secondary characters.
just being mindful of time, and that's actually a perfect segue into if people want to hear from Odette or learn who she is or read some of your books or whatever, where can they find you?
I am everywhere. So I am on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Kobo, Google Play, Smashwords, Apple, did I say? And you can also get, my ebooks in the library. So a lot of libraries have them, but you can just request them if they don't.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's it. And then, you can go to my website, which is teresapaolo.com, and I have a section in there that's, like, residents only that has, like, extra stuff, so you can get, like, cookbooks that, relate to my series and travel guides and stuff like that.
that's so
It's
cool.
basically I created when, I'm procrastinating writing.
Yeah.
I
I
feel
mean,
like being more creative.
yeah, and
Like,
also take all that world building and put it to some good use, let people see it.
exactly. Yeah, like
Mm.
my, Mad About Matt series, which is the first book in Red Maple Falls, she's a baker, so I have a couple and she makes her specialty's cupcakes, so there's, like, a couple cupcake recipe books and stuff
Oh,
that
cool.
you can download the PDF and make some cupcakes.
All right. Well, I'll put links in that in the show notes and stuff. And thank you for joining me. That was a
Well, thanks for having me.
great
Sorry if
conversation.
I rambled.
No, I am
I
also a
feel like I did.
rambler. I love the rambling.
I felt like I was just going and going.
Thank you for listening to the Quill and Kettle podcast. I hope you return next week for more tarot guided interviews with amazing creative professionals. A necessary legal and ethical disclaimer. The views and opinions of the guests of the Quill and Kettle podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the podcast itself. The tarot used and the advice given in this podcast are not meant to replace business advice or professional advice. They are for entertainment purposes only.